first batch of this whole training program. This is essentially a training workshop. So we are having a large number of participants. So we are doing in batches, and since it is basically a workshop, we are trying to see that we have limited number of participants in each batch so that we can have some good interactions also. This whole workshop that we have tried to design, we are trying to look at some of the very, very interesting and constructive ways in which we can handle conflicts in the classrooms. So, to start with, let me quote this Mahatma Gandhi, this beautiful quote for teachers. Gandhiji says, if I was to be their real teacher and guardian, I may touch their hearts. I may share their joys and sorrows. I must help them to solve the problems that faced them, and I must take them along the right channel, the surging aspirations of their youth. Very, very powerful quote for all teachers, that how they can be the real teacher and the real guardians. So this whole program that we are trying to do is that for the next 2 days, we will have our Honorable Director, Mr. Dipankar Shrigyan, who will give his introductory speech and also talk about the importance of mediation in the classrooms. Then Madam Dr. Sazia Mansoori, she is from the Aligarh Muslim University. She has been doing a lot of work on this issue of conflict management and handling of conflicts through non-violent way in the classrooms. So she will talk about the usual conflicts that many of you face in the classrooms and how we resolve them and how we resolve them effectively and constructively. Then we will have for today the session where I will be talking of the strategies of non-violent communication and how we can handle the conflicts using non-violent communication. Because after all, the essence of any conflict resolution is the way we communicate. So we will talk about that, on how and what kind of communication ecosystem that is going to be there in our classroom. Tomorrow, at the same time, we will start with Dr. Sazia Mansoori's talk on how we can develop an empathetic classroom. And that's again very, very important. And then I will talk on the essence of media literacy and how we can use the tools of media literacy to resolve conflicts in the classroom, and how we can use the tools of media literacy to help guide our students in this world where there are so much of fake news and things like that. Plus also, for dear participants, it's very important to underline that we are, since it is a workshop, it's not a webinar. What we have tried to do is we are trying to develop a monograph out of this series of workshops that we are having with the teachers. And in that context, we have developed a set of questions like assignments for the participants. Like we had already shared the the assignments with the participants of the first batch. So we will be sharing with you the links of those questions, simple questions, reflective thinking on different ways in which we can handle conflicts in the classrooms. So these are the small little assignments for every participant, and all those participants who kindly reply us back with their perspectives, we will all issue a certificate, and also the end product would be a proper monograph out of it. So this is the whole plan that we have for today and tomorrow. And so without wasting any time, may I request our Honorable Director, Mr. Dipankar Shrigyan, to kindly give the inaugural address for this e-workshop. Sir.
Thank you, Vedavyas. Good afternoon, everybody. Respected Sajay ma'am and dear participants. I'm really glad to see Professor A.K. Misra after a long time. And we worked together way back 10 years back, and he's here. And he has a long experience of teaching in classroom and engineering colleges. So I think he will be one of the very good resource person to speak about or to contribute to our that what you were creating the document. The question for today, that's the e-workshop which we have organized. Why we need peace and how the peace is achieved. The ultimate aim of every human being is to live in peace, attain peace, and pass his life in peace. But a peaceful mind always requires some sort of conflict. Otherwise, if there is not a healthy conflict in the mind, then the development will stop. Most of the time, this conflict starts with the very small things, but it turns little bit ugly due to ego, position, money, and so many factors contribute to it for making it a real lifetime conflict, and sometimes it becomes unmanageable, and even unmanageable that leading to some unheard kind of things what 2 days back one Bollywood star committed. So conflict is always a thing which should be resolved in the human being. The genesis is always in the mind. It travels from mind, and most of the time it starts with the healthy competition, and later on the healthy competition, repeatedly doing the healthy competition, we tend to become more competitive in this world, and the conflict starts. Particularly in the classroom, there are two type of conflicts. One conflict is between the students, the peer group conflict. And second conflict is between the student and the teacher itself. Most of the time it hardly exhibits because teacher has the fiduciary authority over the students. So most of the time the students either compromise or sometimes they avoid. But I can seriously say that there is a conflict between teacher and students also. But in between a student, what really happens? Most of the time, the teacher inside the classroom thinks that there is a conflict only on the last bench. The backbenchers are having the conflict. But no, the real conflict is the front benchers also. Suppose one student enters in a class, and earlier there was a student who was topping in the class, and the new student is also equally good, and he gives a tough competition to the that student, and then there starts a healthy competition. But in this competitive world where everything matters, that healthy competition even becomes the conflict and the genesis for the conflict, and that requires management by the or the resolution by the teacher. Unfortunately, in our education system, we have 50 minutes time. Most of the time, either in the school or the college, we have only the 50-minute time to teach them and to resolve their conflicts also. So most of the time, the teacher tends to teach rather than tending to resolve the conflicts in the peer group. And most of the time that continues, and outside of the class, it is exhibited in the form of violence or in form of bullying. So as a teacher, it is our job not only to teach, it is our job to resolve their conflict also, and that requires some extra time out of the class. Because most of the time, what I feel as a trainer for the IS and PCS officers, I feel that when you start talking everything in the whole group, that makes the things more worse, and the conflict is aggravated Rather, it is better to ask the conflicting disputants to some isolation place, talk to them, individually counsel them, understand them, and first generate a faith in yourself that both the parties who are at the dispute must have the faith in yourself. Most of you will agree that the conflict resolution or the conflict management is a Western world concept, but no, it is the Indian concept right from the time of Vedas. We have right from beginning of our civilization, particularly in Indian civilization, we have some people who are knowledgeable, who are expert, who are leaders, and we submitted to them for our conflict resolution. And we always obeyed what they decided. Later on, the concept of Panch Parameshwar evolved from that. We ourselves created Panch for ourselves. And we submitted to the Panch and we respected the decision of the Panch because it was my decision which was narrated by the Panch. Because in the Panchayati system, I'm not talking about the Panchayati system, the government. In the Panchayati, the Panch Parameshwar system of the traditional system, which is of Indian civilization, a Panch is always expected to generate the confidence of the disputant in himself. He asks the disputant for the possible solution, and when the disputants give the possible solution, he explores the final solution and he expresses the final solution in his own word. That's why it is the solution given by the parties itself that the parties are bound to respect. That's why our Panch Parameshwar system evolved, sustained, and respected till date. You will find that in the Adivasi areas, the disputes are mostly settled by their leaders, their mukhyas, or their group leaders. And they settle everything very peacefully and very amicably. But in the so-called civilized society, what we call it, most of the time our disputes we don't hear, we don't trust. Even in the today's world, when we are approaching the judiciary, even we don't trust the judiciary. So day by day, conflict resolution is becoming a challenge for every walk of society. It's the real challenge. And unless we go by the way of Gandhi, there is no question of conflict management. The conflict management is a Western term, I agree. Where it is managed and there always a concept of one party losing and other party winning. But in the conflict resolution, what Mahatma Gandhi said and practiced, there is always a win-win situation. Nobody loses. I'm just citing Mahatma Gandhi, one small example. You all know that at the time of independence, the Union Jack was pulled down by the first Governor General Lord Mountbatten, and the Indian flag was also handed over by him. Imagine a situation then any Indian going and pulling down the Union Jack, and we think that we could have settled anything with the Britishers. Perhaps there must have some scar in the mind of Britishers, and India could not have got a place in the Commonwealth as soon as it got it. That was a resolution that nobody felt, no Britisher felt that India has pulled down their flag. It was their people, it was a Britisher who did that. It was Mahatma Gandhi duty. Perhaps he thought in the best way to resolve the conflicts. There are so many examples in the life of Mahatma where he resolved the things. Sometimes we think that avoiding an argument is escaping from argument. But when you see the life of Mahatma, when there was a heated argument, Mahatma always used to go to his goats and starts nourishing the goats. It was a kind of avoidance. So that we have to learn. Conflict is not only that where we aimlessly argue. Conflict is also that where we patiently hear the others, understand the other. The best, most of the time that the powerful man always think that he is doing for the other who is not so powerful. It is my sympathy to that. And sympathy never resolves the conflict. It is the empathy which resolves the conflict. Unless until we put ourselves in that position and think or from that angle, we can't resolve. Classroom is the real nursery where students learns the conflict as well as the conflict resolution. It is the teacher who is the real trainer who trains in the very beginning how to resolve the conflict. So I request all of you who are the teachers particularly, don't ignore small conflicts in the class. Give and pay some attention to those conflicts, and you will find that you are the most respected teacher in your school, and you are perhaps the most accepted one among these students. I hope the Sajia ma'am lecture, Devya's Kundu presentation will surely give you some tools by which you will try to do the things in your day-to-day life, and that will enhance your knowledge. That is my expectation from this uh, workshop. I am not aware what is your expectation from workshop, but I am sure that our resource person Sajia ma'am, Devyas Kundu, will be able to convey what we, I'm sure, will benefit you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir, for the enlightening introductory note to this workshop. It is always a pleasure to listen to you. Now, as this is a workshop and we are in a digital board, we are totally focused. Because there is no scope for you know going for different routes when we are working on a digital platform. So here, without wasting any time, may I request Dr. Sazia Mansouri to start her presentation. And this is on what are conflicts and the different kind of conflicts that you all might be facing in day-to-day life when you are going in a classroom situation. Uh, Dr. Sazia.
Thank you, Dr. Vedavyasar, and a very good afternoon to all of you, all the participants, esteemed Dr. Dipankar sir, and other very esteemed teachers and students who are participating in this workshop. It gives me a great honor and pleasure to be with you here. Um, the concept that I'll be dealing with today is about conflict resolution in classrooms, and the focus of my whole presentation would be to engage you in understanding this concept of not just about what is conflict and the underlying causes of conflict, but also how, as a teacher or as a student in an educational institution, you're going to overcome and cope up with certain strategies and skills as a teacher, and certain methods or styles that you can use to overcome all these conflict problem situations. For because I'll try to make it as engaging as possible. So there is a request. First of all, I'll request all the participants that if at any point of time you have any question regarding the concept that is being discussed, the discussion, please write it down in the chat box. let only the questions be in the chat box. We don't need your Gmail IDs. We don't need your presence by saying that I am present and I am from this in this place. We'll come to that part maybe sometime later, but the main focus would be that in the chat box we require your questions and your doubts answer, and also your feedback if any. So that is one thing. Another very important thing is whatever is will be discussed today, this and also Vedsa's session after me, we will be giving you an assignment. After 2 days of workshop, an assignment will be given to you. The successful completion of that assignment and submission thereby would only lead to the issuing of a certificate of this workshop. So whatever is being discussed, please be very careful about it, try to attend it, and make it possible that you are an engaged and active participant in this workshop. Another very important thing here for my session is I want all of you, let me first start presenting so that you may be finding it easier to understand what to do. Yes. Um, yes. So I hope, wait, sir, are you able to see? Can somebody prompt me? Pankaj?
Yes, ma'am. Visible,
Are
ma'am.
you
Visible.
able to see the presentation?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. That's wonderful. So before I come to the main presentation, I'll request all the participants in this workshop to kindly go to use your mobile phones, or if you're using a laptop, please log into your Internet Explorer. You just type slido.com, and there you will receive a window like this. All the participants are requested to do this, because in the meanwhile, while I take the session, I'll request you to join it again and again, this site, and give your feedback, and there are certain questions and quizzes waiting for you. So please go to an Internet Explorer, don't leave this meeting, just also open one Internet Explorer, type slido.com, and there you will find a window like this where you have to enter an event code, and the event code for today's session is capital C, capital R, and 1. CR1 is the event code. I hope everybody has done it. Please, can you write in the chat box yes or no? Slido.com, and the event code is CR1. You can do it side by side. You can do it on your own laptop, or you can do it on your mobile phone. It will work there. Just keep it aside by just log into it by typing capital C, capital R1, CR1. I'll just write it in the chat box as well. All right, good. So many of you have done it. Wonderful. Slido.com, and the event code as a participant is CR1. Thank you. So I hope everybody has done it. All right, I'm getting responses. All right, this actually will help you when I log into those questions, and good. Thank you everybody. All right, let's start the session. So basically my topic today would be about conflict resolution in classrooms, and I'm as I've been already introduced as I'm Dr. Shazia Mansoori. I work in Aligarh Muslim University, and basically I deal with teacher educators, Department of Education, and the objectives of my session today would be understanding the underlying meaning of what is conflict, how these conflicts come into picture, identifying the various sources, then defining the concept of conflicts in the classroom. Thereby, in this workshop, we will work on certain strategies that can be employed in conflict resolution in the form of the styles and skills possessed by the teacher as well as the students. And then in between we will have certain exercises, and finally we'll come to the Q&As. So I hope everybody has done the login part. Now let's quickly come to the meaning of conflict. I think I have just with me 30 minutes and not more, so I'll quickly start and begin. So what is conflict? Conflict is a very natural part of a living being. It is a common occurrence in all the institutions. You are whenever, even if you are left alone on this planet Earth, there will be conflicts that you have to face on an everyday basis. Now, why do the what is the underlying cause of why these conflicts are named so? Because of the different perceptions, aims, goals, and attitudes, beliefs, etc. of the different participants, because they are incompatible, and so thereby the conflicts come into picture. Very importantly, it's necessary to understand that conflict in any form is not an event. It is not something that has taken place as an event. It is a process, simply implying that there are underlying features to it. There are certain occurrences which are going side by side, and also the process actually has certain steps, certain other activities going on all together, and then there are certain outcomes of it. So whole underlying wholesome process is what we call as conflict. It is not an event. And why conflict arises, or what is the reason, is that because there are different perceptions, attitudes, beliefs, and also the conflicts varies with one's position, situation, and context. A person in one situation may feel the same situation as conflicting, whereas the same situation when taken up to some other level may not be a conflicting situation for that person. So this may vary with respect to the environment in which you are in. Suppose, for instance, somebody, one of your maybe junior is not talking to you properly, she talks to you rudely. To some extent, in that particular institution, this is unacceptable, right? So that may lead to conflicting cases where you won't be able to interact properly. The junior will not be able to interact properly with you. But the same thing where a child who is at your home, who is not talking to you properly, may be dealt in some other way altogether. So what I mean to state here is that conflicts, they are not just because they will occur the same everywhere, but they may vary with the position, situation, and context. Here I have certain types of conflict that you may be encountering on a daily basis in your lives. Very first one, person versus self. I hope everybody every day in the morning, or maybe at some point of time in the day or night, you face this conflicting situation where you want to understand what is going inside you. Where is that internal struggle? What is that struggle, and how you are going to overcome that? Should I do this or should I not do this, right? Such kind of situations are also an example, a very good example of interpersonal conflicts, which I'll come to it later. There is a conflict called person versus technology. My microphone isn't working and I can't pull up my speech on my phone. Now this is a conflicting situation between the person and the technology. Suppose I am taking a session here. At some point of time, if the technical difficulties come up, I'll feel a conflicting situation here. Or suppose I am not very well versed in this kind of platform, digital platform, and I am not able to deliver to you properly what I intend to, then at that particular time I have this conflicting situation between me and the technology that I'm trying to use. Another important one is person versus nature. This is very much visible nowadays. We are struggling hard to overcome the situation that we are in, which is what we call as the COVID-19 pandemic. Everybody is locked up. Everybody is trying to keep himself or herself safe from this or the pandemic situation. And this is what this conflict between we and the nature is. The nature has, some people, some environmentalists say that the nature has tried to take revenge from the humans by being this way. So in this prevailing situation, the nature is trying to take revenge from us as humans. So how is this conflicting situation, how are we going to overcome? So this resistance of the individuals and the groups from the nature is what we call as conflicting situation again. Then there are conflict of interest. I hope you understand that one person is not agreeing to another person's interest and beliefs and faith. Then there was person versus person, two people interacting, they undergo certain kind of conflicting, opposing views and opinions. There also there is this kind of conflict that comes into picture. On an everyday basis, we have a person versus society, what I believe and what the society believes. Now there are certain situations which for a person are comfortable. The person is very comfortable that okay, I can do this in this manner, but when he or she comes out into the society doesn't accept it. The society has its different norms, so that is also one conflicting situation that we usually overcome. So these are the various types of conflict. The main reason for me to write them down here and to show them is to make you understand and realize that the various situations which we don't even think we don't even think that what these which situations are we undergoing, so those can be addressed and acknowledged as conflicts. Now there are two types of conflicts: intrapersonal conflicts and interpersonal conflicts. The basic reason behind both these conflicts, as the very name indicates, is intrapersonal conflicts give rise to the conflicts which occur within a person. The person tries to, he or she tries to overcome those conflicting situations or inner struggles between himself. A very small and simple example that I can quote here is when I am trying to understand that, okay, should I wear this? Should I not wear this? The very common problem that every day we may face is what should I wear, what I should not wear in the morning, maybe for males and females both, right? So this kind of situation is what we call as intrapersonal conflict. Another similar situation can be seen in a manner that suppose you are teaching in the classroom and you have certain methodology, like for instance, you are taking a science class, right? Now, in that science class, there are situations where you can think that, okay, I can make a model by myself and demonstrate to the students the same concept, or I'll take one model from the lab and I'll ask the person in charge to demonstrate it to the student. So in both these cases, what are you trying to do? You are trying to understand, okay, whether I'm capable of doing this thing or not. So this is one intrapersonal conflict that goes on in everyone's life on an everyday basis. This has also to be addressed properly, not just a conflict between two persons, but a conflict within oneself. So I'll ask you to actually analyze and ponder about the various situations where you find the conflict within oneself, where you find the conflict within you, by you, for you. Another one is so this is just a simple example. Intrapersonal conflicts, which talk of within an individual torn between two goals or situations. Alternatives can be both attractive or unattractive. For me, both the alternatives are attractive. I can do this manner or I can do in that manner. Both are attracting me, or they can both be unattractive. In this manner, I come to three approaches. I'll define here three approaches, and that will make things more clearer for intrapersonal conflict. The one is approach conflict, where there are two alternatives, right? Where there are two alternatives and both seem interesting. Now, for instance, I am a student who has taken up a course like, for instance, MEd. Correct. Now, for me, MEd is a course that has given me some professional standards of being a teacher, right? To some extent. I know that if I do a PhD degree in education, I'll be able to grab an opportunity as a lecturer or maybe as a AP in some university, right? I also know that if I apply in some school as a teacher, I would also gain the same. I'll also be a teacher there also. But in both the situations, the things are different, although they both are attractive. Now, for me, it's very difficult to analyze that whether should I take a 5-year program of PhD and then apply for a job, or should I get a job which is a normal school teaching job, which has good credits also, which has good salary, handsome salary, but then I am in this conflict. So this is one of approach conflict where you try to understand that, okay, this can also be done. This will take some time, but for now, I'll get this, right? So this is one example. Another one is avoidance conflict, where there is a situation where you are trying to avoid both the things, both the situations. In that manner, for instance, understand it in this manner. The principal has asked you to do certain amount of work by giving you a post, right? So he says that one conference is going to be held and you are supposed to be the organizing person here. You have to work hard for like 1 week, right? No, this is one situation. The other situation is that if you don't take up the post of the organizing person, you will be asked to leave with the students for an educational tour to some place outside the hometown. Now, these are the two conflicting situations again, which both seem to be unattractive because they require quite an amount of hard work for you, right? So, what you try to do, you will avoid things. You will try to think that, okay, what can be done is, whether should I go there or should I do this, right? So again, both the situations are such that you want to avoid that, but then you don't which one will you pick up is again a conflicting situation. Another one, approach avoidance conflict, where the situation is conflicting, where it is not likely it's not liked by the person, but actually it also has some sort of attractiveness to it. For instance, a situation in which your superior authority has asked you to join a post, but with that post comes additional responsibilities. For instance, you have been made warden of a hostel of your institute. Now, warden is a post where you will get some amount of salary also, and a large amount of respect, maybe some amount of fame, and then the credits to your CV also. But then as an administrative post, but then with that additional responsibility of being a warden in the hostel will require lots of time, lots of effort, lots of energy with the students and the residing people. So what is to be done, whether you need to take up that post or whether you need to avoid that post, and with avoiding that post you are losing out certain amount of fame, money, etc. So these are the various conflicting situations which actually come. Now this is one simple example. I don't think I have the confidence to go on the stage where you are trying to conflict your understand your struggles within. My anxieties have anxieties, this is one. Now another one is interpersonal conflicts, where you are trying to understand the conflicts between the between various maybe two people, between you and the institute, between you and the students, between teachers, among the teachers, between the teachers and the principal, etc. Why these interpersonal conflicts actually occur? They occur because, as I already mentioned, incompatibility of goals, needs, values, beliefs, aspirations, etc. Everybody has a different goal. Everybody, maybe the goal is same. Maybe, for instance, for my department, suppose I go to my department every day, many other teachers come, the goal of us is the same, teaching, going to the department and having a discussion with the students. But how are we going to attain this goal will actually define the conflicting situation that may erupt at times. Now we have our own attitudes, values, and aspirations. Sorry. Our aspirations, then we have alienation, disrespect, and humiliation, which may occur within those interpersonal conflicts. So these conflicts very much visible inside in the institution as well. And next, I would now request all the participants to please log in to slido.com, and there I have one multiple choice question waiting for you. So please log in to slido.com. Just wait. There's some error. Are you able to see the multiple choice question there is?
No, I've joined just now. My screen is not showing.
Your screen is not showing. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'm Ishtaq from Patna. I'm unable to see the screen,
Or
slider.com.
I'll just now please check. Are you able to see the question? Which of these situations do you face in your daily life? I hope everybody is logging on to the poll that is active now. Vaisar, are you able to? Okay, thank you so much. Votes are coming in. That means you are being able to log in. Wonderful. The number is increasing. Good. I hope these situations are very general, very common in everyone's life. So, should I do or should I not do? My supervisor doesn't accept my views. Some students in the class need strict action. I will cheat on my diet instructions. I don't care what they think of me. I am better qualified than XYZ. This colleague of mine is so difficult to work along. Do I look good in this dress or pick another one? The very common one. So I hope everybody is able to log in. If not, I'll just again tell you that it's slido.com. You have to join with CR1 in the event code, and there you will find this active poll. I think we have many people who have logged in, and I'll just now display the results. Let's see what you all think about the various situations in the daily life and which are the most common ones. Okay, here are the results. Oh, wonderful. We have should I do or should I not do? Very conflicting situation. Everybody faces in everyone's, everyday circumstances where you are not able to decide between two options or various options. All right, I have again many people joining in with the poll. Then there are some students in the class need strict action. Okay, you think that this is the one thing that you face in your academic institute where you want to take some strict action to the students. All right, some people still have that my supervisor doesn't accept my views. This is the most general conflicting situation that is found in any kind of organization, whether it's your school, college, or department, wherever it is. Then we have, okay, I don't there's some attitude here, I don't care what they think of me. Wonderful. So this is again one conflicting situation. Yes, this colleague of mine is so difficult to work along. Do I look good in this dress and I'm better qualified than XYZ? These take up the last scores. So the maximum people are thinking that should I do or should I not do, and some students in the class need strict action. These are the various conflicting situations, sir, dear participants, which we face every day in our lives, and we have no choice but to understand and analyze these situations. Thank you so much. Let's come back to our you know to our presentation. Coming to what causes conflict, my issue here is what is the conflicting situation that you want to actually which you face, and then what are the underlying problems or the features that actually lead to those conflicting situations, right? So here I have made a small list, and I have even given you a reference where Mulius has enumerated the causes of conflicts as follows. Limited resources is one very important factor which actually leads to conflict. Two or three people working in the same lab, right? Many of you from science or from other streams, you might be facing that when two or three people with their individual work capabilities and capacities, when they are confined to one particular space, there are conflicting situations that may arise at times. Poor communication network, this is one of the major underlying cause of conflict. We don't communicate accordingly. For us, communications, and I am a teacher in my department who deals with communication skills. I have this paper and this whole concept of communication that I deal with my students, and there I find that when I ask them what do you mean by communication, so majorly people say that communication is talking to one another. No, I totally disagree. It's not talking to one another. It's understanding the idea of one another, what you are trying to say and what the other person is trying to say. And then the meaning that is attached to those things, are they being exactly understood in the manner that they have been delivered like, right? So if I'm saying something and you're not able to understand it, there the communication is not proper, and which ultimately leads to various conflicts. So one problem, one cause that of conflict is poor communication network. The communication skills have to be developed among the students and the teachers so that they effectively understand and express their ideas. Even expression, if somebody is lacking in expression, he or she will not be able to communicate what he or she wants to, and the other person may take him or her in another manner, in his or her own thoughts, right? Then we have task interdependence, where there is an interdependence of tasks or activities. Suppose you give an assignment to the students where you ask them to make groups and then complete the activity. There, the conflicting situations may arise to a maximum. Then we have overlapping authority. For instance, a conference is being conducted. You have been an organizing secretary and another person also on the same post. So there, these are the overlapping authorities where both the persons try to come up with their own ideas and try to implement them accordingly. So this will ultimately lead to certain situations where the people will not be agreeing onto one single platform. Then we have role conflicts, where you suppose you are a teacher, you should act like a teacher, you should behave like a teacher, you should not, you are a student, you should behave like a student, right? You cannot be a teacher in the classroom. So these role conflicts can also lead to certain problems inside the academic institution. Inequitable treatment, we have various examples to it, where for instance there's gender discrimination. There might be discrimination among the students of various categories. Maybe suppose a student comes from a special need category and there are students who are normal. Then between these categories, they, if the teacher is trying to make he or she is not able to fulfill the needs, the educational needs of the students who come from special needs and also the normal students, then you are trying to inequitably treat the students, and that may again lead to conflicting situations. Now there are certain emotional or psychological underlying features also, such as frustration, stress, misunderstandings, lack of planning, ego, why should I do and why he or she should not do. The recruitment of teachers, these are certain certain situations which we usually generally come across. Like for instance, teachers appointment, interference of union is what we usually face in our university now and then, that there are some certain groups, union groups, students group, teachers group, they try to interfere in the academic activities. There are also certain conflicts come ke bhai, suppose a student was denied a hall ticket for the examination. Why? Because he or she was not having a proper up to a certain amount of attendance. Now the union comes with a power that we are the student leaders, you have to accommodate that student accordingly. So such kind of situations actually are very common in our academic institutions. Then traditional teaching methods, we have all been clinging to the physical settings of classroom, where we were going to the classroom, talking to the students for 50 minutes and then coming back to our homes, giving them some assignments, etc. But now these traditional teaching methods have been done away with. What we are doing nowadays, from since like for almost like 3 months, or about to be 3 months, I was stuck to my computer and mobile phone, and I was constantly on online sessions with my students. I was trying to interact with them. I was trying to communicate with them. I was trying to, be online for them, irrespective of what the time is. They were messaging us, asking about the assignments, about the notes, etc. Various things. So these traditional teaching methods can also lead. Now, if I say no, I will just, I want you to be in the physical setting. I want you to teach in the classroom. I cannot log into these computers and mobile phones. Then definitely a conflict comes over, and you're not able to meet up to the expectation of the students as well as the institute. So these are the various, and then we have lack of empathy. I'll talk of empathy tomorrow in my session, where I'll be talking about how to develop empathy and why it's important in a conflict resolution. We have challenges to values, intolerance, prejudice, making assumption, ignorance, self-interest, cultural threat, and then desire for power is what causes conflict. These are certain examples. May I have your attention, please? A teacher asked to the chaotic classroom, and the classroom replies back no. So what is to be done in that situation? You have to understand. Then we have ego blocks. Where should I go down? Although both the people have ladders to reach each other, they have the means to reach each other, but they are not coming just because there are ego blocks. Why should I go down, and why let him come down? So these situations can be seen. Now, I have another reflection exercise here. Please pick up a paper and pen. I have certain, words mentioned here, and I want all of you to categorize these words into two categories: peacemakers and peace breakers. Please quickly write it down. One word is lie. Another one is sorry. Then we have clarity, communicate, stop talking, compromise, use humor, threaten, ignore, make deal, blame, get upset, ask for help, let others have their way. So these are the various phrases or various words that you may categorize in either as peacemakers or peace breakers. I request all of you to please write down these words and into two columns. One is peacemaker and another one is peace breaker. And I'll ask you what you have done after some time, right? So I hope everybody has taken up these words.
Can you
These
please
are on
repeat
a
the words?
slide presentation. Okay, I'll repeat: lie, sorry, clarity, communicate, stop talking, compromise, use humor, threaten, ignore, make deal, blame, get upset, ask for help, let others have their way. I hope everybody has taken up these words, and please categorize them into two categories, which are peacemakers and peace breakers. Right? Here I have a conflict tree, which is shown in the form of a tree with the roots and the branches and the trunk or the body of the tree. The roots are the causes. The core problem is the body of the tree, and the effects are emanating. They are coming out of through those branches of the problem, right? So this is how a conflict actually occurs. The process actually occurs that you have certain amount of causes. These give rise to the core problem. Together they give rise to the core problem, and thereby when the core problem is not addressed and acknowledged accordingly, the conflict may have effects that you may not even consider, right? So this is what I call as a conflict tree. Now, reasons behind, as we have already discussed, there could be lack of communication, personal, political or ideological or organizational. So these are the various reasons which school conflicts actually come into picture. um, I have these these two categories which I was talking of and asking you to make is peacemakers and peace breakers. So I have simply categorize these words. Like for instance, when we have peacemakers, we talk of sorry, we talk of clarity, we want to clear things out, we communicate, we compromise, we use humor at times, we make deal, and then we ask for help. Peace breakers are like for words, lie, we lie about the things, we stop talking to each other, we just don't want to talk, and this is actually what breaks the peace. We threaten, we blame, we get upset, we ignore, and we think that let others have their way. It's okay, I don't mind it, right? So these are, if you have done it this way, then congratulations, you have understood the meaning of conflict and how to resolve conflict, right? Next, now what are these effects of conflicts in educational settings? If we talk of, it develops frustrations. Look, when you are not able to make up with your superiors or your subordinates, it leads to frustration. A teacher who wants to do certain activity in the school, but the concerned authority is not allowing him or her, then definitely it will lead to frustration. A superior teacher not talking to the subordinates, thinking that, are these are the newly appointed teachers, why should we talk to them, we should not even address them, then that develops frustration, right? We have lack of professional motivation. Once you stop doing things in the manner in which you have been allowed to, or if you have not been allowed, then definitely it leads to the professional motivation is lacking at that point, and you then try to think, are we can do it like this, just leave, why to put on efforts for it, right? Then comes lack of cooperative learning, poor performance, and low success rate. So these are very again the effects that we actually see. Now on psychology, if we want to categorize, I have again categorized psychological, social, and organizational effects of conflicts in the classroom. There you can see that anger, tension, lack of communication, harming the self and others, unease, lack of trust, feelings of insignificance, unhappiness, disappointment, frustration, stress, and indifference comes into picture. So, and a study has been done on a group of teachers who have been asked certain questions, and the qualitative analysis has been done. This is the result of that, which I am showing you here. Social increased, what happens as a social effect, what is the thing? Polarization can be seen. What is polarization? Some people at one end, another other person at the other end. You are not bridging the gap, but you are, creating that gap, and the people are poles apart. Enmity, prejudice, violence, lack of tolerance, increased animosity and hostility. Organizational setup may, we can have certain like tensed and unsettled environment. We have weakened cooperation. Team spirit totally damages itself. There is decreased motivation and achievement. There's lack of discipline. People, students drop out of schools. Then there are weakened human relationships. Forming groups with ideologically like-minded people. That is what we call as polarization. I will again request you all to kindly log into slido.com, and you have another interesting question survey there waiting for you. Which of the following are mainly responsible for conflicts in classrooms? Or for you as a teacher or as a student, what are the various reasons which you think are mainly responsible for conflicts in the classrooms? Quickly log into it and just give your votes. Okay, we have numbers increasing here. People are logging in, and thank you, participants. You are being very active. We have lack of empathy, intolerance, assumptions, poor communication, different interests, stress, and ego. So, according to you, what could be the reason that conflicts actually erupt in the classrooms? Is it lack of empathy, intolerance, assumptions, poor communication, different interests, stress, or ego? What is the cause? All right, good. People are logging in. I hope I'll just, yes, okay. Thank you.
I'm unable to log in because it's showing that there is no such event active right now. So should I be able to answer? I mean, how should I
Have you
answer
logged
now?
on to slido.com with CR1 code?
Yeah, but yes, with CR1 in Slido.com, it says there is no such event active right now. I've tried several times.
Okay. But what about others who are logging in and who are actually attempting the code?
I don't know, but I'm trying again and again, and since I'm so short of time also.
You may look below the.
Okay, please.
I think you just close the window and try going to the slido.com once again, typing the
Okay.
CR1 code, and just so you can see it again. All right. I'll
Okay.
keep the poll active. I will not close it so that you can check it. All right.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Welcome. So I have maximum people who have actually responded, and thank you so much. Yes, wonderful. The very first reason that you think is ego. 79% people have opted for it. Then there is poor communication. Very well said. We have lack of empathy, which actually leads to conflict. Yes, of course, we don't understand each other's feelings and interest and behavior, so we usually land up in conflict. Then we have intolerance taking up the fourth position, and lastly, the last positions are taken up by assumption, stress, and different interests. That means to some extent you all believe that ego and poor communication and lack of empathy are the three major reasons which are responsible for conflicts in the classroom. Okay, so this implies that to some extent communication is important, to some extent empathy is important, to believe in conflict resolution and to come up with strategies of conflict resolution. And definitely non-violent communication, which is the session which will be taken up by Ved sir, will be effectively dealt with today, and tomorrow I'll be taking up lack of the empathetic classroom, which will be available in our next session tomorrow. All right, thank you so much. Let's quickly come to the last event that I want to talk of, is the strategies of conflict resolution. Here I have seen this resolve, how to resolve a conflict. Reach out. R stands for reach out. E stands for engage in a conversation. S stands for seek to solve the problem. O is opening up. L is listening intently. V voice solutions, and E end on a good note. So these are the various ways in which you can resolve a conflict. All right. In the classroom situations, what you have to do is you have to explore the issue. You have to start the conversation, find a common ground with the person that you are having a conflicting situation, discover solutions accordingly, make the process visible. Apart from this, we have certain skills, conflict resolution skills, like for instance, mediation, which Dipankar sir has very well defined in his keynote speech, empathy, active listening, accountability, and problem solving. Then, coming to what styles can we use as a teacher and a student in the classroom, we need to have
Hello,
an
ma'am.
avoidance
I
style.
cannot listen you.
Sorry,
I'm not getting your voice. I'm not getting your voice.
can
I
you can
cannot
you
listen you.
can you use the
You are
earphones?
not audible.
Styles of dealing with conflicts, which actually relate to avoidance style, accommodation
Hello.
style, competing style, compromising, and collaboration style. We have these various styles that you can use for dealing with conflicts. Avoidance style simply means that you need to avoid certain situations. You need to ignore certain situations to some extent. To some extent, I'll again emphasize this. To some extent, so that the things become more clearer between the two people. For instance, when you find some student disturbing you, to some extent you need to avoid without considering giving them recognition. But then at some point you have to take up some other style where you want to address the problem. Then we have accommodation style where you're trying to accommodate the person with whom you are having the conflict and trying to resolve the issue in such a manner so that the beliefs and the attitudes don't become conflicting, but they also they come to certain ground where they are balanced. Then we have competing style. Competing style is one positive outcome of conflicting situation. I am not here to discuss and say that conflict is a negative process, but I am also here to say that conflict can be a positive process as well. You need to have conflict to develop that that trust, to develop that understanding, to understand the meaning of others beliefs, to understand the meaning of others views and opinions. For that also we require certain amount of conflicting situations where we will be able to analyze the views and opinions of others. Then of course compromising and collaboration is are the other forms and styles where you which you can use to overcome conflicts in the classroom. Then what should be the skills of the teachers to deal with conflicts? You need to have a very effective communication. You need to actively listen to your students and let them also promote active listening in the student. Then you have to facilitate their understanding of the concept, their understanding of the feelings of the others, their understanding of their environment, etc. Mediation is one process where you are trying to help people overcome their conflicts. Dialogue, you need to understand, you need to help others express open freely without getting into those conflicts which may ultimately lead to various harsh conditions in which the person may land. And then finally negotiation is one where you try to come up with certain solution to your problem in the classroom as well as outside. I'll request before I end up, this was my last slide, I'll request you all again to log into Slido. We have the last activity there in the form of a quiz. I have generated it. Please, can you all join the quiz? 30 seconds will be given to, and there are only 4 options that you can actually click on to. Which among the following seems to be the most probable outcomes of conflict in your institution? Ability to find the truth, respecting different views, democratic environment, increased competitive performance, learning correct behaviors, and living life. Only 3 people. I'll again, generate this quiz. I'll again generate it. Yes, Ranju Srivastav, Larika, PB, Asmita, Ishtiyaq, Ufra, Dr. Ahmed, Sudhanshu, and many more. All right. It is again active. Please log into it. Log into slido.com. You have another 30 seconds with you, and the quiz is there. How many of you think that which are the most probable outcomes of conflict among these situations in your institution? All right. Yes, many have done it, and this is the leaderboard that we have, which tells us Sudhanshu Shekhar, Dr. Ahmed Azhar, Ishtiyaq Ahmed, Srimoni Gogai, and Ranju Srivastav. Thank you so much for being a wonderful participant here. Another multiple choice question is there. Please just log in again and take up this poll as well. How do you react in situations of conflict around or involving you? How do you react?
Excuse you, ma'am. If we log in, they are asking for the coding.
CR1 is the code.
Sorry, ma'am.
CR1 is the code. How do you
PR1.
react in situations of also? CR1. How do you react that you give when you have a conflicting situation? Are you uneasy? Are you disregardful? Do you keep quiet? Whether you withdraw, sorrow, patience, complaints, depending one's ideas, anger, and irritability. What do you do actually in these situations? This is the final poll, and I hope it helps you in understanding conflict and how you overcome conflict. All right, wonderful. Many people are logging in and they are using the poll to address their views. I wish there were more. All right, I'll display the result. Okay, they are coming up. Thank you so much, participants. You have been wonderful, wonderful. All right, I have the results here. Patience is wonderful. I have very brilliant participants here who took up this workshop, and they are very peacemakers rather than peace breakers, because they deal with patience. They deal with patience when they have conflicting situations. They keep quiet. Wonderful. Uneasiness gives the third. Okay, depending one's idea, you hardly do it. Then anger, irritability, and then sorrow, disregard. Okay, so disregard gets the least vote. That means you have been a wonderful conflict resolver in your institution, and you take up conflict in a serious manner, and you try to overcome the conflicting situation by being patient, keeping quiet. And I would like to congratulate you, because you have been, I hope, by this session or whether before itself, you were all aware of the conflicts and you knew how to resolve them. That is wonderful. Thank you so much. Um, uh, this is all that I have for the today's session. I thank you all for being an active participant, for being a patient listener, and for coming up with certain questions. As I can see that I have certain questions lined up for the session here in the chat box. I'll take them up definitely. Uh, Thank you so much, everybody. I think this is all I have to say. Before taking up the questions, I will request everybody here to kindly please stay logged in too, because our very esteemed resource person, Dr. Vedavyas Kundu sir, is here waiting for his turn to start. And I hope you all gain the insight that I was talking about, communication network between the individuals, between the teachers and the students, and the various people, so that an effective classroom works up, which is actually the ultimate motive of this workshop. So over to you, Ved sir. Thank you so much, everybody. I'll get back to your questions after we finish Ved sir's session. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sazia. It was a very wonderful session where we tried to understand about conflicts and also how teachers can actually handle conflicts in the classroom situations. And as Sazia was talking about the importance of communication in the classroom situation, because essentially everything relates to communication. Whether we are, how we are handling the particular situation, it's absolutely critical. What is going to be our communication ecosystem? For the teacher, the challenge before her or him is what kind of communication system she or him is able to evolve in the classroom, whether between the teacher and the students or between the
सर
students.
माइक्रोफोन ऑन कर दिया हूँ.
Sorry. Yeah, whether between the
Still
teacher
I'm
and
not listening.
hello, is it clear? Hello,
या चल मेरे पास आया था उस दिन. मैं तो भाई कर लेता हूँ ना भैया, मैं तो कर लेता हूँ. तो ज्यादा कुछ
hello,
आवाज नहीं आ रही, आवाज लिया तू
Yes,
बहुत
sir,
अच्छी
it's
है.
visible. I request
hello.
Pankaj, please mute the participants.
Yeah, so it is essential, and the challenge before the teacher is how she or he is able to evolve a communication ecosystem in the classroom. And that here we are going to share with you an important strategy that you all can have when you are handling conflicts or even without conflicts, how you can evolve a classroom which is what we can say a peaceable classroom, where there is a culture of peace within the classroom scenario. And here is something what we talk about non-violent communication. And so we start a presentation now. And I start with this beautiful quote of Kabir, and that's really important. In your veins and in mine, there is only one blood, the same life that animates us all. Since one unique mother begat us all, where did we learn to divide ourselves? That is the essence of why we are in conflict. There is no need of being in conflict. So here we start this journey to resolve conflicts in classrooms using non-violent communication, because essentially you as a teacher basically you are
Yes,
there.
sorry to interrupt. I cannot see your presentation. Have you logged in your presentation?
Yes.
Okay.
What about others?
Sir, visible.
Visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah. So when we are talking that we are going to use non-violent communication in the classroom situations, that means we are focusing on restorative practices instead of retributive practices, because for a teacher, there are different ways. It could be punishment, it could be, as Sazia was talking about, the different forms of resolving conflicts, avoidance, and here. So here we are talking of restorative practices vis-a-vis the classroom situations. And also the effort is to encourage non-violent resolution of disputes and an evolution of a value-based system in the classroom, where both the students and teachers handle conflicts collaboratively. And also the aim should be to develop empathetic connections, not only among students, but also between teachers and students. So in fact, this has already been dealt with Dr. Sazia. So now we come to this very beautiful quote from Mahatma Gandhi, which sets the tenor of our presentation. It is the force of love is the same as the force of the soul or truth. We have evidence of its working at every stage. The universe would disappear without the existence of that force. Thousands, indeed tens of thousands, depends for their existence on a very active working of this force. Little quarrels of millions of families in their daily lives disappear before the exercise of this force. So there may be quarrel, there may be differences in a classroom situation, but essentially what the challenge before the teacher is to ensure that the classroom is like a family, where each and every member's needs are being understood and met. So there could be quarrels because we are all human beings after all. There will be conflicts, there will be differences of opinion, but how we resolve them is something which is very, very critical. And here comes the importance of non-violent communication. In fact, when we are talking use of non-violent communication in educational settings, it is basically then we are making the situation or the settings as sites for dialogue, because it's so important that how we promote dialogue in our classroom situations, how we resolve conflicts through non-violent methods, enhance interpersonal literacy, mutual respect, and cooperation between the students, teachers, administrators, and parents, so that we can reduce the stress factor. Already many of us are always in stress, so this is such an important method of how we handle stress also. It also helps teachers to provide attention and behavioral support in a positive way for addressing problems of disengaged students and challenging behaviors in the classroom. So before we start, what are the important pillars of Gandhian nonviolence? Because there lies the pillar, this lies the foundation of nonviolent communication. When we are talking that we will be developing a nonviolent communication ecosystem within the classroom, so what are the fundamentals that we need to promote? The first and foremost is respect. How we can promote respect between each other, mutual respect. That's very, very critical, because most of the conflicts, as we may realize, stems out of the fact that there may be a problem of or deficit of respect between each other. So mutual respect is very, very critical. And when we respect each other, we will be able to develop greater understanding between each other, because the whole idea is to have a cohesive classroom. So when we are thinking of a visualizing a cohesive classroom, means that there should be greater understanding. So greater respect leads to greater understanding. And when we are able to understand each other, we will be able to accept each other's position. Every student or teacher, they may have their own point of views, but how we are able to positively accept each other's position is something we need to learn. Then the fourth important pillar of Gandhian nonviolence is appreciation. Here comes the importance, because again, in the classroom situations, you will find, especially in today's world, we are all entrapped in the negative energies and negative emotions, and because of which there are frustrations, because of which the learning outcomes suffer in a classroom situation. So how the teacher can inspire students to appreciate the positive things around them, how we can promote an environment where there are positive energies, which will help us to contribute positively and constructively to the development of a cohesive classroom and promotion of pro-social behavior. And the fifth and the final pillar of Gandhian nonviolence is compassion. It's again extremely important how we are able to lead our students to be compassionate. Here we are talking in context of compassion, not just between the peers or peers and the peers and the teachers, but here we need to know about the understanding of human interdependence, because compassion here, when we are talking about the Gandhian realm, we are talking about the cosmocentric nature of human beings. Here in this case, we need to understand, especially when we are going through this pandemic situation, how important it is to understand the importance of human interdependence, the dependence between nature, human, and all other living beings. And in a classroom, right from the primary level to the highest level, higher education, how we can inspire our students to have compassion, not just for nature, but all other living beings, on all other our peers. That's an extremely important aspect that needs to be looked at. So what is our objective with these 5 pillars? Promoting a non-violent communication ecosystem in our classroom. And then, of course, our major goal for any teacher is to develop a cohesive classroom. Whether interest of the students and the teachers are taken into account, cooperation is present, group goals are established, there is greater mutual cooperation, and conflict are dealt in open and not judgmental way. Because many times when there is a conflict in the classroom, we could find that if the teacher is judgmental, then there could be a problem. Because at the end of the day, what we are looking at? We are looking at a win-win situation, even if there is a conflict in the situation, the Gandhian approach. But if we are judgmental, then there could be a problem. It could lead to a win-lose situation or a lose-lose situation, because when two groups are in a conflict in some way or the other, and we are judgmental, then there could be a situation where everyone loses, because at the end of the day, our major challenges of developing a cohesive classroom fails if we are not able to handle these kind of conflicts in an open and judgmental way. Well, we have been conducting this workshop even in the physical form, even before the lockdown. And in fact, the first thing when we conduct these workshops are do a brainstorming on what are the acronyms of the word teacher. And during the course of several workshops that we have had during the course of so many years, some of the major thing which many teachers come up with these acronyms are: for T, trustful, trustworthy, transparent; E, empathetic; A, acceptance, greater acceptance of the teacher; C, compassionate; H, human and humorous; E, enlightened; R, reassuring and reliable. These are some of the acronyms which generally come up when we have this brainstorming session on what teacher stands for. So from this point of view, we will come. Basically, I agree, and it's something very, very important. That teaching is definitely, as teachers, it's important. It's an emotionally demanding job, definitely. It is associated with high levels of emotional labor, and a teacher is expected to be tactful and show the right empathetic response while managing the classroom environment. The teaching is mediated by knowing the needs of students, as I told you right at the beginning, and creating a climate where students are actively engaged in the learning process. So, when we are talking of in school or in higher education restorative practices, it is how to address discipline in a way that helps students engage in learning and contribute to effective learning outcomes, and how it helps students develop fundamental skills to address challenge and concerns in their lives, and develop positive relationship with their peers, and develop the skills in relationship management. So when we are talking of the teacher effective teaching and conflict resolution situations, it is definitely linked to conflict resolution in classrooms. And it also involves enhancing the non-verbal and verbal communication skills, with the key principles being removing the obstacles to mutual communication, because the whole challenge is how we can promote greater mutual communication amongst the students, how we can promote greater open and flexible communication between the students. The no-lose approach to conflict resolution, an approach to collaborative problem solving, and active listening. So when we are talking of all these ideas on how we can do and use of non-violent communication, here comes what exactly is non-violent communication. Because what is important is that as a student of communication, we've been taught that you cannot not communicate. Every portion of our life, every time of our life, whether we are talking to someone, whether there is some action, or even our thought processes, thoughts, these are all forms of communication. So we cannot not communicate. So but what is exactly non-violent communication? Because today morning only I was talking to someone, and we were engaged in a very interesting discussion on the aspects of healthy communication and unhealthy communication. Because when we are using unhealthy communication, say for in a classroom situation, if there is an unhealthy communication ecosystem, then it will be an obstacle to the learning outcomes. There will be a lot of fights going on, and it will not be a peaceable classroom situation. So hence the challenge before every teacher is to develop a healthy communication system which nourishes all the students in the classroom. That should be the goal. So what exactly is non-violent communication? Here I am quoting from very senior Gandhian, Natvat Thakkarji, who has a very, very interesting and detailed explanation of his understanding of non-violent communication. He says to be non-violent communication, he goes up to the level when he says that we as individuals need try to become non-violent communication literate. He's talking about the literacy level. Non-violent communication literacy would mean how our communication efforts should be non-violent, how our ability and capacity to communicate not only with ourselves but with our family and society be non-violent in all aspects. And overall, how the entire process of communication, whether between individuals, groups, communities, and the world at large, should be non-violent in nature. So, with this understanding in mind, let us try to see how it is important in our classroom situations. Natvat Thakurji further says, many of us have been brought up in environments where competition, judgment, demands, and criticism are the communicative norms. Hence, non-violent communication begins by assuming we are all compassionate by nature, and those violent strategies, whether verbal or physical, are learned behaviors. Especially when, as teachers, we would find ourselves in a classroom where a particular student might be violent or having some destructive behavior. It could be learned. It could be learned from the media. It could be learned from different forces. It could be learned from a different situation, possibly from the student coming from. It could be anything. But basically, some of these violent behaviors are actually learned behaviors. So essentially, we must understand that we are all compassionate. We are all non-violent in nature. Now comes the importance of what are the different elements of non-violent communication, and here comes the importance on how we use them to make our communication ecosystem non-violent in the classrooms. The first and foremost is complete lack of violence in the way we communicate with others. How our communication ecosystem should have a situation where there is very less chance of any kind of violence or destructive forms of communication. It should be flawless, it should be smooth, two-way communication, open and flexible. This includes both verbal, non-verbal communication, including our thoughts, ideas, and perspectives. Next element of non-violent communication is importance of how we can use appropriate and positive language. Essentially, it means expansion of our emotional vocabulary. In fact, for teachers, it's so important. When we, deep emotional understanding and knowledge are extremely important for teachers to communicate positively, because if we have a greater understanding of emotions and emotion, then we are able to observe and listen to the different messages that are conveyed by the students. Also, why it is important to expand our emotional vocabulary, because then we will be able to express our feelings in a much, much better way. Because there may be a situation where a student is not able to express his or her feelings in a proper way. But when, as a classroom, we are trying to have a situation where we are trying to expand our emotional vocabulary, we will be express our feelings in a much better way, feelings and needs. And that's extremely important when we are talking of resolution of conflicts, how we can express our needs, express our feelings in a more comprehensive way, in a more open way, so that it can be met. Next. Now, the third important aspect of nonviolent communication is constructive inner dialogue, because many of us, in fact, especially the students, as in various workshops we do, the first thing we tell when we are talking about this particular aspect is that when did you last meet yourself? And most of the teachers, students feel that they really don't have time to meet with themselves. That's a very big challenge in today's world, because we are all swamped, by the media, by the different forms of media that we are handling, the social media and the television and so on and so forth. So in this world of when we are engrossed with different forms of media, we really don't have time for ourselves. In that context, we don't know how to have a dialogue with ourselves. And many times it is possible that our inner dialogue is destructive in nature. So how we are able to understand ourselves and how our inner dialogue is actually constructive in nature. Because if our inner dialogue is not constructive in nature, then our outer dialogue will again be destructive in nature. So that is so important. And then importance of self-awareness and self-introspection. These are important aspects of nonviolent communication. Again, this is an extremely important aspect of nonviolent communication, avoiding stereotypes in communication efforts, and so true, especially in the context of classroom situations, because we have situations where students might come from different backgrounds. There will be wide diversity, but if a teacher falls into the trap of stereotyping, he or she might be handling a particular student from a particular background in a different way from probably the other students. So it's so important that we don't get entrapped by the stereotypes that we generally fall into. Next is avoidance of moralistic judgments. We have already talked, because again, many times we become very, very judgmental about a particular student, about a particular group of students. So how, when we are facing situations of differences in a classroom, how we are able to handle it in a non-judgmental manner is again an extremely important aspect. Again, an important aspect for nonviolent communication is avoidance of evaluative language, and it's extremely true in the context of the classroom situations. Think of a situation where a student might not be able to, has not done well in the examination, probably have failed. So many teachers fall into this trap, and they will say that, hey, you are not able to do well, you are totally lazy bum, this and so on and so forth. They will use evaluative language. So, and many times we fall into the trap. So how we can avoid evaluative language, we need to keep on introspecting. So that is an extremely important element of nonviolent communication. And sorry. Hello.
तुम लोगों को बोल दो कि नमाज पढ़ के हम चाय बनाएं.
Hello. 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 Yeah. Hello. Avoidance of evaluative language is extremely important aspect of nonviolent communication. Now we come to the other important aspects, because when we are talking of nonviolent communication, these are two an important aspect, and the active and deep listening skills. So as teachers, we need to have a situation where we are able to help students to practice listening skills, because most of the time we are used to listen to a person at a very surface level. We might be interrupting someone when someone is talking. There may be different flaws in the way in which we listen to the others. So when we help students practice deep listening skills, it also helps us to recognize and appreciate the communication diversity that may be there in our classroom. So here is again an important aspect of nonviolent communication. Tomorrow, Dr. Sazia will talk about the importance of empathy. So I will not focus on this. That is also an important element of nonviolent communication, the power of empathy, especially in the context of classrooms. I have already spoken about the importance of compassion. Promote compassion for all nature, human beings, and all other living beings. That's again an important aspect of nonviolent communication. Now, the last two important elements of nonviolent communication is expression of gratitude. How we can, not just as teachers, as an individual, how we can, make it into a habit that the more we express gratitude, the better it is. Because also there are a lot of scientific studies, psychological studies that has been done, that the more you express gratitude, the less stressful you will be. So let us try to see how we can motivate our students, not just our students, but even ourselves, how we can thank the other person. That's so important, expression of gratitude. And the last important element of nonviolent communication is connecting with the needs of others. Extremely important again in a classroom situation, because probably if there is a dispute here and there, the teacher must have that skills on how she or he will be able to connect with what were those particular needs of that particular student, why she or he might be behaving in that particular way. If we are not able to connect with the needs of others, because there may be small little micro issue that might have triggered that particular behavior, say a destructive behavior by that particular student. But if we are not able to understand that micro issue, that need, then the whole thing will start flaring up. The student might be becoming more destructive, becoming more aggressive. There may be various other complicated issues. So connecting with the needs of others is extremely important, and we as teachers must try to see how we are able to develop these particular skill sets. Now the last few slides. Here, when we are talking of empathetically connecting with others using non-violent communication, it means listening to feelings and needs behind the words used or behavior. Because when we are connecting with others, the needs of others, as I said, we are able to understand why a particular student using the particular kind of word, or as I told you, why he or she is behaving in that particular manner. For example, this is an example I'm giving to you. Uh, Pankaj, can you mute the other participant, please? Thank you. So I'm giving you here an example. Say a teacher, she has noticed that a particular student has stopped working on the problem of maths. So she might say that I noticed that you have stopped working on the maths problem. You could say that, are you feeling frustrated? Probably because you have not liked to find the solution by now. Like the student is not able to find the solution to the problem, so he or she might be getting frustrated. Would you like to take some help with that? So it's like how we are able to connect empathetically is something very important. So also it helps us promote mutual communication and dialogue. And as I said, it creates a culture of acceptance, support, and mutual respect, where true growth can take place for teachers and learners alike. So essentially, because when we are using non-violent communication, we will have a situation where we will be able to effectively mediate in case of conflicts in the classroom. And also, as I said, because the whole idea of greater learning outcomes is when we have greater dialogues in the classroom, discussions and interactions. So when we are using the tools of non-violent communication, those elements that we discussed, it will help enhance the level of dialogues and interactions. So that is there, and learning then becomes a fun. So finally here I'm giving you sharing a very powerful quote by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, when he says, the peace does not mean an absence of conflicts. Difference will always be there. Peace means solving these differences through peaceful means, through dialogue, education, knowledge, and through humane ways. So thank you very much. So these were some of the aspects that we talked about of non-violent communication. So I will ask Sazia, do we take the questions tomorrow? Because it's already 1 hour 40 minutes today. And tomorrow we will have a lot of time to have further discussions on the media literacy, empathy, and also, most importantly, the idea of reflective exercises. What do you say, Sazia? Hello? Sazia?
साचे मैम नहीं है सर यहाँ पर.
Oh, I think she has a network problem. Okay. So, friends, tomorrow, once again, we will take the questions. Please think of more questions and please share with us tomorrow. So there will be adequate time tomorrow to share the questions. So the first, we will talk about the whole idea of empathetic classroom, and then we will go and talk further on media literacy and how media literacy is an important tool for teachers to help in the classroom to make classrooms more peaceable. So thank you very much, and so we meet tomorrow again at 3 p.m. Thank you very much. Thank you, please. Thank you. We meet tomorrow same time.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. We meet at the same time.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Thank you. Same to you.
मीटिंग खत्म हो गई है। मीटिंग खत्म हो गई है।
Is it over, sir?
और खत्म हो गई मीटिंग। आपको कल इसी वक्त मिलना है 3 बजे। हेलो,
Is it over?
यस मैम, इट्स ओवर।
Okay, sir. Okay.